Evening, evening all. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to Inside Spurs Minds, where I go one to one with different Spurs YouTubers to unpack their passion, their pain, and the truth behind their love for the club. We'll also be discussing Thomas Frank, the board, any latest developments with the club, and also that transfer window so far. Now let's welcome in our fifth guest of the season, Jim from Oh So Spurs. You should all know this guy, very famous for his cool and calmness on camera. If you haven't, I suggest you go over and give him a follow. I'm going to get his link up in the chat shortly, and go over and give him a sub. Be much appreciated. I'll let him explain a bit about his channel in a second when I pass it over to him. And Jim, lovely to meet you. Thanks for joining us tonight for the show. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, and cheers for having me on, Dan. As soon as you messaged me, it was a no-brainer to come on. It's nice to come on. I've got to be careful what I say, so I'm not kind of insinuating something bad about anyone else's channel. They're all wonderful for different reasons, but I call you one of the genuine ones where I feel it's a show with a true Spurs fan at the front who's got his heart in the right place for this club. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be on with you, Dan.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Much appreciated that. Yeah. So, guys, I'll get his link up shortly, and I'll pin it to the top of the chat. And people, if you haven't subscribed to him, go and give him a sub. Look, if you haven't liked the stream, please give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't. I reached 1K last night, so thank you so much to everybody who supported me throughout the year. First year on YouTube. Everybody who subscribed. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And there'll be plenty more content coming out. Start the season's coming soon. Next week, we've got another episode of Beyond the Lane on Tuesday night. So come down and join me and Nige and guests. Should be good. It's the day before the Super Cup final. So, I'm sure it'll be a lively one. So let's get into it, guys. I want to say a few hellos to people in the chat. People tonight watching, get involved with your comments, whatever we're talking about. Good to hear what you're thinking. Thank you for all being here. So let's just jump to the chat quickly before we get into the show. Just want to big up Mark. Evening, Mark. How are you, man? Thank you for being here. Big up to Jeff. Evening to you. Big up, Jency says. Big up, Nige. Big up, chaps and chat. Congratulations again on 1K. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. And congratulations to you as well, because Nige reached 1K on the, I think it was a Sunday. So we both reached it together. It's amazing. Good day after each other. Jim saying big up to the chat. Nice to say hello back to Jim. Big up to Scott. How are you, man? Big up to all. Come on, you Spurs. Big up to Guy. Come on, you Spurs. That's it in the chat. Thank you guys for all being here tonight. So let's get into the questions. So first question, Jim, a nice one for you, really. A nice kind of just get a little bit more information about you as a Spurs fan, supporter over the years. Let me get it up on screen, because then it's a bit easier that way. Let's have a look. Here we go. So growing up as a Spurs fan, were you more drawn into the club's history, the flair, the underdog narrative, or something else entirely? What's your story, Jim? How did you become a Spurs fan?
Well, I didn't start off as a big football fan, to be honest, until I was about 12 years old. It was all about cricket and tennis and rugby for me. And then my best mate was he's still actually one of my best mates. I still see him all the time, but he's a huge Chelsea fan through and through. And my uncle, who's a huge Spurs fan, had been taking me to games whenever he could. So at that time, I was more interested in a burger and sneaking in a pint outside the ground and the bricklayers, despite being grossly underage and getting away with it at the time. And that being my highlight of the day out rather than the football. And then we played Chelsea. And I watched it with my best mate, who was Chelsea, and he was like, you guys aren't actually that bad. You've got some really good players in there. You got like Aaron Lennon, who's cool and he's good. You got this guy called Ledley King, and I was like, oh yeah, Michael Dawson coming through. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give this a proper shot. So I went to watch the game, and I walked in, and the whole room was Chelsea. Must have been about 30, 40 Chelsea fans, and us two Spurs fans at the back, me and my brother. And we beat them for the first time in 16 years. And from that moment, I was just hooked. I got it. I got why I dislike Chelsea so much from day one of becoming a true Spurs fan. And I was just, straight onto the phone, landline that time to my uncle, when's the next game? When can I come? When can I come? And the first thing I bought with my money when I turned 18 was a season ticket. The first time I had a job, I just put it all into a season ticket. I'd travel down from college or whatever on the weekend or uni and work on the bar shift Friday night, pay for my ticket on the Saturday, East Lower. And yeah, it's been 15 odd years of a season ticket ever since.
Jim, are you talking about under Harry Redknapp when we beat Chelsea?
No,
No, Martin Yole.
Martin Yole. Yeah. So
it's been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, first time in 16 years, I think it was. I remember all the commentary of that game, like back to forth, like it was a book. Yeah, Robbie Keane sent Belarus on his bum.
Yeah,
cross it into Lennon. Lennon with a chance. 16 young years. Tottenham have waited to beat Chelsea. Could this finally be their day? It was
Mourinho's Chelsea as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. So we were massive underdogs in that game. No one expected us to pull it off, and we did. It was just class. Loved it.
So yeah. So are you all for the kind of Spurs playing the to dare is to do the attacking football? Is that another reason why you enjoyed Spurs over the years? Would you say, or not so much?
Yeah, absolutely. Like my relatives, my mum's West Ham, my uncle's Tottenham, my other uncle's Arsenal, and my granddad was Spurs as well. And so I kind of had the pick, growing up. It was like, Reading was like my local team. It's like, which one do you want? And Spurs were always the one that they're just something cooler about them. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the attacking football. Maybe it was the flair. At the time, I couldn't put my finger on it. And as soon as I settled into supporting Spurs, I liked that we were the team that would just buy too many strikers and not really worry about defenders for a long time. And we always have this way of every 5 years, we find a way of just some generational player that most teams don't experience in their lifetime having. A Gareth Bale, a Luka Modric, a Dimitar Berbatov, whoever it is, a Klinsmann, whatever. We get them. And they always end up at Spurs, and they love us back, I think, because we embody what they want to be. We let them play how they want to play. I wouldn't swap this club for anything in the world. So, yeah.
No, great answer. And, thinking back of all those fantastic forward players that we've had over the years. I mean, the names you mentioned then, just then, it was, they're some fantastic players, man. And no, great answer, Jim. Great answer. I just want to bring up a super chat from Mark Taylor. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Look, let's jump on to the next question, Jim. Let's move this along. Let's have a look. Get your next question up. Right. What about this one? So what's your ideal brand of football, and how much should identity matter when results aren't following?
Well, we've tried abandoning the brand for results, haven't we?
Yep.
We tried it under Mourinho. We tried it under Conte. The issue is bad patches of form follow you, whatever style of football you play at some point. And they're a lot easier to endure when you aren't playing ultra pragmatic football. They're easier to endure when you feel like you've gone for it. You've tried to take some swings at the opposition. Equally, there's extremes to that. I was a fan of Postecoglou, and my feelings were quite clear on that online. But I also understand why he was moved on completely, and I'm excited for what Frank can do. But I think that you've seen both extremes. You saw what happened to Mourinho when we played really, scoring a goal, bringing on an extra centre back, and still conceding anyway. And under Ange, we had moments where it was like, I know if we lose the ball in the final third, they're going to have a chance to score in about 10 seconds later. So we've seen both kind of extremes of that, but I would still always rather Spurs leaned on the attacking side. It's our motto. It's everything we're about is to dare is to do. So it's important to me. Otherwise, what are we? We're just another logo, just another team. I think Spurs are different at the moment. We're one of the only clubs who are under, British ownership in the Premier League. We have pretty much stuck to attacking football through 90% of our managerial choices. A couple recently that didn't, but they were ejected, and I feel they were partially ejected by the culture of the club because they don't suit what we're about. So it's do we need results as well? Of course. my expectations of Spurs aren't that we're going to be challenging Liverpool year in, year out, challenging for titles every single season. But I think we're better than what the last 20 years have represented. And that I'd like to see Spurs, challenging for domestic trophies every season. And every few years having a title challenge as well. That's kind of where my head's at with it. And I think we can do it one day. And I want to get back to that place. Say back. I've never actually seen us in that spot apart from Poch. So
no, good answer. So yeah, you much prefer Spurs to win in an attacking way. Fair enough, man. I get that. I think for me, it's got to the point now where I just want success. If it's a bit more defensive, if it's on the counter attack, I prefer attacking football. Who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't want attacking football? But it's got to the point now where Spurs need to be winning more consistently, and we'll talk about Frank a bit later. We can each give our thoughts on the man. But no, good answer, Jim. I just want to jump back to the chat because I've got another super sticker. Cheers, Nige. Just say hello to Scott in the chat. Big up, Scott. Hope you're good, man. Just say that. Big up, Paul. Big up, Luke. How you doing, man? Hope you're all good. Thank you for joining us tonight. And just a few more hellos. All right, next question for you, Jim. Let's go. Question number 3. Here we go. This is a good one. So, which Spurs player, past or present, do you think best embodies what Tottenham should stand for and why?
Which Spurs players, past or present, do you think embodies what Tottenham should stand for and why? So I have my favourite players. I think favourite players and best players are two different things. So as an example, Berbatov is one of the best players and I loved watching him play. But there's nothing Tottenham about him beyond his flair. Like he wanted out the second Man United, fluttered their eyelashes in our direction. But he was part of winning a trophy and I adored watching him. What a player. And sorry, Nige, is Nige. Yeah. Nice to meet you, mate. But there's others like Son Heung-min, who's obviously the most recent topical one. Now, to me, him, Dawson, Ledley King, Jermaine Defoe, they're Tottenham. Like, regardless if Son had scored half the goals he had scored, if he hadn't even won the trophy, he's still Tottenham to me. He's an attacking player. He loved the club. He stuck with us when he didn't have to. He was always going to fight for his position, and the likes of Dawson did that as well. We dropped him, tried to sell him, and he fought his way back into the team. Jermaine Defoe was supposedly found crying in the car park when we tried to sell him and wanted to fight his way back into the team. Like, they weren't from Tottenham, but they were Tottenham. And I love that representation of those kind of players. They embody it for me, those ones. I also put Gareth Bale in there. I put him in there as that kind of like, I know he wanted to go to Madrid, but that was a bit different. Like, who wouldn't? But to me, he was everything. For my generation, I feel like I didn't get to see Glenn Hoddle, who people who did say he was the best they've ever seen in a Spurs shirt. But to me, like, Gareth Bale could just pick up the ball and just give it here, I'll do it then. I've never seen a player for Spurs be that good that they could just turn a game on its head. And the thing I loved about Bale, he was all about attacking flair and brilliance. And to me, it was like, we're Tottenham, and no matter if we're mid-table or what, we still have the ability to bring through world-class players like this. And we'll continue to do so. And we obviously had Luka Modric in that area as well, who was so good. Real Madrid went and built a team around for a bloody decade and won, a record number of Champions Leagues with him. So, yeah, I think Bale, Modric, Defoe, King, Dawson, Son Heung-min, even Timo Tanio. I don't know why. That guy just screams Tottenham to me. Crouchy a bit as well. Benoit Asuakotu. We've got Aurelio Gomez, Sandro, all those kind of guys. They're just Tottenham. I love them.
No, it's a good answer. It doesn't have to be one particular player. It could be a collective of players. Kane, you didn't,
I think that sums up where I am with him at the moment. He didn't come to mind, even though he's a legend. Yeah.
No, I like where you're coming from with that. Players who actually love the club as well, not just talented, not just that flair. Players who could play or defend like King, Dawson, like you said. Great shouts. We've had some fantastic players over the years at Spurs, and great plays. Like, even in the intro, he probably reminded you of a few there when you were watching the intro, some of the old players. Yeah, fantastic stuff. And that video is kind of probably started from my time when I supported Spurs. FA Cup final, that's the first kind of final I remember, and back in 1991. So I kind of did it from then. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but yeah, nothing older than that. But no, fair play. Good answer, Jim. Some good suggestions in the chat as well. Let's have a look. I just wanted to bring a couple up. Let's have a look. Yeah,
can we forget Paul Robinson as well? He's serenading the Spurs fans to "If you hate Arsenal, stand up." Like, instant appreciation for that.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. He scored a goal from his, wasn't it against Watford, right? From the goal kick.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I remember that one. Glenn Hoddle, me, Mr. Tottenham. Evening, Ellie. Hope you're good. We never challenged Liverpool only in domestic cup wins, but we've met them in one domestic cup competition. In the League Cup in 81-82, we lost 3-1, and that Champions League final in 2019 at Sissoko handball first minute, and we lost 2-0. Oh, interesting, Ellie. And then she said, big up, lads. I see this comment come up, a bit sticky here on my what's going on? I've lost all control. Hold on, let me try hide that. There you go. Technical issues on StreamYard.
Who's your most Tottenham player ever, though, Dan?
Oh, like so many of them you mentioned there. Ledley King, one of my favourites. Bale, Kane, Son. Oh, I don't know. Robbie Keane. I like Dawson. I wouldn't say he's one of my favourites. There's so many we had over the years, but if I had to pick one, Bale just got me off my seat. Yeah. Fantastic moments. It's a close one, kind of between him and Kane. Kane, all-time top goal scorer for Spurs in England. Fantastic player. Son as well. Such a sad day to see him leave at the weekend. But again, look, there's a place that got to move on at some point, and I think it was the right time. Jim, did you think with Son it was the right time to go?
Yeah,
kept him.
Absolutely. So the controversy of spacing up my channel was start of last season. I was saying I think this should be Son's final season with us. No, the year before last, I said the season that is now, 2 years from now, should be the final season, and we've got to try and set this guy up for a trophy. And I was happy with the appointment of Ange, particularly because I felt like he always wins trophies in his second year. I was fully bought into his belief in himself to do that. And when he made Son captain, I was like, this is destiny. Come on, this is going to happen. We've got to win something with him. But then I just had a feeling as well with Son, if trying to put yourself in his shoes, and I can't because he's come from such a different way of life to me, working up the ranks to be a superstar footballer. But I kind of felt like he's been through so much adversity of Spurs and stuck through so many tough times to get to that trophy moment. I just wondered if once that was done, he would feel like that's that chapter done. And it leaves him at the age of 33 with an opportunity to make one more move, but to be in an environment where he still competes at a good level, but he can enjoy football. He doesn't have to make all this self-loathing pressure you hear that he's put on himself. Like, I'm not good enough. Am I good enough? Challenging his own esteem to prove himself more and more. It's nice to say you've done it. You can let go of that. Just enjoy being the brilliant football you are now. Somewhere else, he's going to get all year round sunshine now in LA. Big Pumper Bay deal. Less pressure, still brilliant fans, still decent level of football, opportunity to win some cups as well. It just makes sense. And the last chance for Spurs to get a fee, I think it'd be criminal as well to not get a fee for a player who is that much of a big name and that good at football. So yeah, I think it's the right time.
Nah, sad seeing him there on the bench, wasn't it? Crying there. How could that not get to you? Honestly, how could it not? Right time. Right, let's move along. Let's get to the next question. Let's have a look. Let's get this one up. Okay, this is a good one. So, how have your expectations of Spurs changed over the years? Are you more patient now or more demanding?
I'm a little bit more demanding now. That's been amplified by the way the game has changed and become so much more heavily focused on spending money. And seeing you go into a transfer window and you used to just kind of pick up the date. You didn't really know what other teams are up to so much. Now there's this constant, jabs at each other. Whole personalities are built at winding at each other's fan bases. You can't not know what every other club is up to and who they're after and all that kind of stuff. Then it adds a sense of frustration when you are moving slower than a team that you want to compete with. And look, there's 20 teams in the Premier League. You're very rarely going to be the team that's moving faster than the pack. So you're always going to feel a sense of I'm falling behind, which does make it a bit more of an anxiety-ridden journey at times, and amplified even further by the likes of Chelsea, who have just kind of changed the whole way of thinking about transfers and football, the high-risk approach, who cares about the rules, that kind of stuff. It makes you look at Spurs and go, what are we doing with, this player as our third choice backup? They've just spent 50 million quid on theirs, and we've got, Ben Davies or whoever. I love Ben, by the way. I'm just using an example of, I would have previously gone, that's fine. Mature, sensible, model professional, versatile, makes sense, right? As a backup, I'm thinking, well, Liverpool wouldn't do that. Chelsea wouldn't do that. Arsenal wouldn't do that. Liverpool wouldn't do that. And we want to compete with them. So it makes you a bit more demanding to see the club do a bit more. But I do also have a sense of acceptance and peace that we are a massive club, but we are not quite on that pedestal of Madrid, Liverpool, Man United, Man City, PSG. And being accepting of that makes you kind of enjoy the journey a bit more, because you're still good enough to win things, but you've got to temper your expectations to be in line with who you really are.
Good answer. I mean, look, for me, look, Poch really kind of gave us that real hope that we could, win possibly with the league. We got to the Champions League final. We had such a fantastic team under Poch, and just with a bit more backing by Levy in the seasons he was there, we just needed that player to come in who were, I don't know necessarily, you'd hope to raise the level of that team, but or on the level to kind of, injuries throughout the season. And, the thing with Spurs, Jim, is that we've never had the squad to compete in all four competitions. That's the truth, right?
Yeah.
If you could think back in your time supporting Spurs, can you remember when we had a good squad to could do all of that? Although we obviously got to finals, we got to semi-finals, we qualified for Europe, but some people will say, well, it's the Spurs mentality, Spursy, filing at the final hurdle. You can't say we have poor managers. We've had some fantastic managers over the years. So it's an interesting one, Jim. What's your take on that?
Yeah, the Poch here is often the one, like, I agree, we've never really had a squad so deep that I thought, wow, we're going to juggle Europe fine here without any issues in the domestic cups. And that's why we've not got over the line a lot of the time. There's also, I don't think it's right, though, to compare what even happened 10 years ago to now. Like, back then, aside from one or two clubs like Man United and Liverpool, not even Liverpool, they had a bit of a downward patch for a while. Apart from Man United and Chelsea, no one could afford to have these big, deep squads. No one was stretching their budgets so far. Football was inflating at such a crazy rate that, everyone was a couple of injuries away from a bit of a wild swing in the table, apart from those one or two clubs at the top. So I felt we had opportunity to compete on all fronts because other clubs had the same troubles we had. The last recent season, especially the last 4 or 5, you've gotten to a point where 5 or 6 clubs have deep squads in the Premier League to compete on all fronts. And I find often Spurs, we have a first 11 that can rival all of them, but a squad that I think was amplified last season isn't capable of really challenging in the top half of the table if you're trying to compete on all fronts. And we saw that really blatantly. Like, it's pretty crazy that even now, I think Mickey van der Ven is going to have some rotations and or injuries this season. It's inevitable. Even if he's not injured, it will be because we manage him well, and we say, we've got a European game on in the week, and you'll play a top 6 side on the weekend because they try play you in line with the other European teams, so you're all at the same disadvantage. So at the moment, what we're saying is one of those games, either against a top 6 side or a Champions League side, every other week, we're going to be playing Ben Davies at left centre back starting. Now, nothing is Ben again, but I don't think Liverpool, Chelsea, or Arsenal or Man City would accept that level of drop off. Now, if Romero gets injured as well, you've suddenly got a Davies and Danso partnership with Archie Gray next in line, or Takai, and you're like, are we like really expecting to challenge Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Arsenal with that situation? I think we're probably going to struggle to do so, but we always seem to take the slightly. I'm not saying we don't try. We have improved our squad already by 2 senior players in Paulinho and Kudos this season. We're a better side than last season, but the depth is still 3 or 4 senior players away from being able to hold our own in those competitions. And I just feel sometimes we can take the cautious approach of, what's the rush? Let's see what happens. Let's not risk stockpiling an extra player and having to leave one out of the European squad. Whereas I think the clubs we're competing against would go, who cares? That player, be it Davies, whoever, they're on 50 grand a week. Just if we can get better, get better. If he doesn't want to move, we'll just tell him he's not playing in the Champions League squad and it'll force him out the door. Whereas we're a bit more ethical, we're a bit more kind, we're more risk adverse. And I find that's nice, but it's getting pretty ruthless out there. And I think you have to start being a bit more ruthless and have these deep squads and pushing the boundaries of your wage structures to remain competitive.
Look, Jim, what you said there, I agree with a lot what you said. And I'm sure a lot of people in the chat watching, you just take one look on social media. I don't always agree how it's put out, but, the fan base, they're not happy. They're not, because they're seeing the likes of Son leave, Maddison's now out, and then we have the report today that we're looking at a centre back and an attacking midfielder. Yeah, look, it just gauges itself. You just go online, YouTube, whatever kind of outlet you look at. Fans are not content. Now, for me, it's really difficult, Jim, because I'm happy Frank's there. I like Frank. I think it's good that he gets a chance at a bigger club to see what he can do. I'm happy with Paulinho. I'm happy with Kudos. The other 2 signings, Tel, Tayaki, I wouldn't have got there. Maybe Tayaki's a bit of a punt, but we don't know how that's going to go. But there's frustration building amongst the fan base, Jim. And look, I do think we will get another player in. Who that player is, we don't know right now. But I was going to save this conversation to near the end, but we might as well just do it while we're talking about it. And then we hear today, Frank is happy with Ben Davies, and I know he's being a gentleman, whatever you want to say. Ben's a good servant at the club, but he should have. We should not be seeing Ben Davies, anymore. At best, third, fourth choice cover if injuries are really bad, and it's great, all experience being in around the squad, but. When is the club going to actually move on and change the transfer strategy? I mean, look, 2 first-team players is great, right? But there's clear holes throughout that lineup. We need left back. I think we need a ready-made left winger. I think we need a forward because Richarlison is injury prone throughout the season. Solanke, there's questions over. Maybe he'll be better next season under Frank, staying in the box more, getting more goals. But for me, it's just looking the same thing, Jim. And that Levy interview yesterday didn't say anything that's going to change in regards in how we approach the recruitment. Look, Jim, what is your thought? How do you feel right now about going into this season with this squad?
So I feel with going into the season, we need to make 4 improvements to the first team, and by that I mean the starting 11. And I felt like we needed a different profile of midfielder, which we've got in Paulinho pretty much, which is a ball winner, enforcer type. I know his ball distribution's not incredible, but that's not what he's brought to be. He's meant there to provide a platform for other players to be more expressive and provide that protection to the team and that steal, and give us a great option when you're playing top 6 sides at home or away from home, to play a different way, and be more pragmatic and have that Marshall in midfield. You got to think you're up against a Saka. Who are you going to put on him? You put a Paulinho on him. You stop those counters. You stop those runs. He's a good signing in my opinion. Then Kudus, I felt we needed an alternative to Brennan Johnson. Not that I don't like Brennan Johnson, not that I don't want to sell him. I think he's got value, but to me, he's an awesome player to bring on when you've got 30 minutes left and you need a goal somehow. I'd love to bring on Brennan Johnson to cause a bit of chaos out of nowhere. So we've got 2 of those signings, Kudus and Paulinho. Now, I still think we need a wing back. And that's because you're 1 injury away from Spence, Porro, or Udogie, 1 rotation away. We need to rotate these players in multiple competitions, to being Archie Gray, is the next in line to cover if there's another injury. Now that you can't be in that situation where Porro's injured and then an injury to Spence means Archie Gray is your right wing back. Football's too uncertain. 1 ACL and you're playing on that knife edge for the 6-month period of no transfer window to save you. So why put ourselves in that situation? Ben Davies, looking at Frank's latest interview yesterday, he seems to think that he's more of a fullback than a centre-back. And I agree. He's a converted fullback into centre-back through situation. He did all right there. Let's keep him there. No, in my opinion, people go, we've got loads of centre-backs. You got Dragusin, you got Romero, you got Danso, you got Takai, you got Davies, you got Vuskovic. I go, not really. Vuskovic is going out on loan, and I always said he was going out on loan. I know people got quite excited by a couple of friendlies. That's great. He's good in the offensive front, but that guy's got a lot to learn defensively.
Yeah, 100%.
So you've got him gone. Danso, I think, is exactly what you need as a backup centre-back. Brilliant. Happy with him. Romero, great, but going to be unavailable for 30% of the games. Van der Ven, great, but going to be unavailable for at least 30% of the games. So you're already on fumes here. And you're saying Dragusin's out until January, and he's not even the answer really when he's there necessarily. They could be fine in a back 3. I don't think he's going to be the guy when you're playing 2 centre backs. So what we're saying, Danso's cover for left back and right back is the only senior, and that's it. Especially at left centre back, so you're just. Why put yourself into a situation where the hammy pings of Van der Ven and you're going season over? Why do that? Just why not find a Danso type for the left centre back role? See that slow train coming towards you, knock it off the rails. It's going slowly. You've got an opportunity to do it. Don't let it hit you. But it feels like we tend to take the option, which is, well, let's see, and then better do something in January now because it's happened. I'd rather just get ahead of it.
So let's jump to a question, Jim. Let's jump to a question about Frank. While we're in that subject, it was like, let's talk Frank. Are you convinced? What does his success at Spurs look like to you? And then obviously we will look at the transfers. We just started talking about it. First feelings on Frank, Jim. Were you happy with the appointment?
So there's 2 different tracks here. There's, should we have sacked Ange, and is Frank a good appointment? If I stick to the is Frank a good appointment, I think he is. I think he's seen as a manager that, if in all things of life, consistency, good consistent performances equal growth, good consistency equals success. All these famous athletes say it around the world. All these billionaires say it around the world, that discipline is when you really don't want to do something, you do it anyway. And you want that kind of like consistent, I'm always there. And I think Frank is Mr. Consistent. He looks at formations and goes, I look at all the established formations in the league. I pick the 3 best ones. I refine them. I get good at them. And I build players that provide consistent output. And I'll start to work on averages, work on coaching plans that get the most out of what I've got over time. Postecoglou was, screw the playbook. I've got a cheat code. If I do this to an extreme, it's going to be so good. It will break every algorithm, other formation, other way of playing, because no one will be able to cope with it. Two very different streams. Now, I've always going to have that. I wonder what would have happened in season 3. It will either have been the most magnificent season we've seen in our lifetimes for a lot of us, or it would have been an absolute car crash and we'd be bringing in Thomas Frank in January. Now, I still think we would have been able to get Thomas Frank in January, and I still think we would have made similar signings, which maybe kind of like think, oh, shall we just take the risk and just try it? Let him have his mic drop and let's just see. But I'll be completely disingenuous if I didn't say it's clear why the club did decide to move on. It's clear that 22 defeats isn't acceptable, and it's clear there was a huge risk to staying on. So I can't be too defensive about it, even though that's what my heart wanted. So Frank coming in is no grudges in me. I don't want the next guy to fail because I like the last guy. I want the next guy to do great. And Thomas Frank seems like a nice, humble human being who's going to play decent football. He's going to grind more results out of those big 6 clubs that we've fallen a bit behind. And I think if you give him the patience and the time, he will get Spurs established back on the top 4. But the key to all that is consistent, good recruitment underpins the chances for any manager. And that's what he needs more than anything. We have to keep layering up 3 or 4 senior improvements every window over the next 3 years to set him up.
Look, Jim, the transfer window hasn't been closed, right? Yeah, we're all worried. We're all stressing what's going to happen. We do have to see what it looks like at the end. I think the frustration thing is we're so slow. So slow.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we got Paulina out in earlier if he was on our list of players that we wanted? I don't know. It's really difficult, Jim. It really is. I get what you're saying, that you wanted to see Ange season 3. You're okay with Frank. There's stuff you like about him. You think if he's given time, he's given the right players, he can build a good side at Spurs. Look, we've already seen some signs of it against the Arsenal game, right? A different approach in how we play. I know it's one game and don't want to get too carried away, but we were definitely more compact. We were more organised. Fullback stayed wide. Fantastic to see. But Jim, the biggest worry for me is that forward line. I think defensively, in our defence and midfield, now we've got Paulinho, is good. I think it's good. I do. But it's the forward line what worries me, because I think good organisation will take you a certain place. But when you're looking at challenging the top sides in the league, we will fall short.
Yeah, we overinflate the importance of managers sometimes. Like, obviously, it's different. You can't just give a fan the job and expect a similar output. But there's a reality that every coach in the Premier League is an elite coach. They are at the top of their game. They've got A licenses, which are hard to obtain. They've got man management skills to move a group of. Imagine trying to make 22 people move in certain patterns and certain ways when you've got a 2-day gap between games, and convince them to do it when they're tired, turning up to training every single day. 22 people, 25, 28, coming up you every day with their problems, with their issues. You've got to keep your other staff happy. It's a massive job. It's 24/7. These guys are the elite. They're driven to the hilt. Like, these people are the types that all they think about day and night is, how can I get better? What did I learn today? How can I get better as a person? Sometimes you've got to trust these coaches to have a bit of time. We often get rid of them so quickly. We don't trust in them to learn from their own mistakes. We just go, you made a mistake, get out. So I think if you gave most Premier League managers the Liverpool squad from last year, most would have had a title challenge out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
If you gave most managers Tottenham squad, including Arne Slot last year, I don't think any would have formed a title challenge. So I think the squad is the most important things to get right. And that attacking line, like you say, is going to be pivotal. We've got some great players in there, but you need a consistent 10. You need that player is going to be so pivotal, and you need an alternative up front who's more of a consistent goal scorer. I really like Solanke and I want to keep him, but I think you need an alternative there. And the left wing, again, brimming of talent, but is there someone with the output today, or are we looking to nurture someone into that player tomorrow? And if it's the latter, that we're looking to nurture them into the player tomorrow, well then I'm going to tamper my expectations a bit for the season ahead. And I'd rather know that and set my expectations around that than get excited and frustrated, because we don't have that player currently. Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say something there, but I just lost my trail of thought. But look, it's just confusing, right? It's confusing, Jim, right? Because, we saw the Levy interview with Vinay, and he's, now talking about, I want to win the league, I want to win the Champions League. Then we saw the interview yesterday. And I'm just like, I don't believe it. I just don't. Look, I don't want to talk about it too much about Levy, but it's just you go and get top players, Jim, right? You don't need 5 or 6 or 7, which is what we've done for years. Getting 4 ready-made players are going to instantly impact the first team. We have got good players there. We have got some talented youngsters there, which with Frank as the coaching and his coaching staff, developing those players over time, it will all start coming together if he's given time. But I think Levy is looking at Frank to get more out of those players, I think, than actually going out and getting the players ready, like a left winger, for example, another forward, or whatever positions, fans agree, disagree on different areas of the team, right? So for me, Jim, and it all kind of points back to the board. How do you view it in that kind of about Levy? And, I don't know. What do you think?
Like I think you've got to look at where their priorities lie. Like Daniel Levy's been there 25 years. He's the longest serving chairman in the league. And he's a very patient individual. He's going to sell Tottenham. That's his ultimate goal. He will sell Spurs at some point. That's his goal. And that's where he's going to make his money. He pays himself a good salary, but he's nowhere near as rich as most these other people like Todd Bowley or anyone else that he's competing with that league. They are earning way more than 2 million a year or whatever Daniel Levy's making. And the Glazers taking millions out in equity in other ways, and billionaires, states owning the club who don't pay themselves a salary because they're not in it for the money. They're paid by a state such an extortionate salary on something else. This is just a side quest for them to have a job and do this. So he's kind of in his own boat in the top 6 with the ownership model. You could probably more closely link it to John Henry at Liverpool, but even then it's an American backing, which is slightly more aggressive. So where I'm going with this is I think his outlook is, I need consistency. I need to consistently tick up the value of that football club, be it 5 years, 10 years, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. Whereas a Todd Bowley's come in and he's gone, right, I've got a private equity firm behind me. I've got to pump this up over the next 3 years and flog it. I've got to get there as aggressive as I can, and whatever means it takes. I've got to pump up the value of this club. And the quickest way for me to do that is results, trophies, and elevating the brand. Whereas Levy can take an approach of, well, that stuff's good, helps, but the lower risk options to increase the revenues of the club commercially in these areas, the stadium, the extra events, the go-karts, the skywalk, the hotels. And if I can get some success on the side, that's great as well. I could do a bit of both, but there's not an all-in approach to deliver success on the pitch. Ultimately, Levy's compensated at the end of the year on his bonuses he gets to frustrate people. It's because he's not compensated on trophies. He's compensated on EBITDA. And he has done absolutely outstanding job of running a great commercial ship that smashes its EBITDA number out the water every year and keeps the shareholders happy and results in a good salary.
But we don't care about that, Jim, do we? As fans, we don't care.
But that's what his boss, the Lewis Fund, who owns 70% of Spurs, set him as an objective. Levy isn't a billionaire; he's a millionaire. The billionaires tell him that's what your job is. You're pumping up my big pie. And what I'd love to see happen is my personal view is Levy's not much is going to change. If Levy was swapped tomorrow, we're not suddenly going to spend aggressively because whoever comes in still isn't the key main shareholder. We've got to sell that Lewis entity, that 70% entity that's not investing any money, that holds the majority of our shares. If that changed to an aggressive investment firm, consortium, whatever it is, someone who says, my priority now is just pumping Spurs up as much as I can and winning trophies, I think we'd see a very different Tottenham. But I think a lot of people might ask for Levy out. If the new person reporting under Lewis, nothing's going to change. And at the moment, we may be moving forward each year, but everyone ahead of us is moving 2 steps faster. So we've got to ramp up the activity to remain competitive now.
Just want to jump to the chat. June, a bit evening to you. Your thoughts on captain, Jim? Is there a clear one for you in the team? To be honest, for me, there's not.
There's not a clear one, no. I guess they'll give it to Romero just because it kind of is the easiest option to give. Vicario maybe, but then a lot of people would say his spot could be under threat. Kinski, some people are asking for that. Solanke, he's a bit too quiet, isn't he? He's got the attitude, but he's perhaps doesn't have the vocalism that you like to see in a captain. If Paulinho was permanent, maybe. I don't know. There's no standout. You're right. There's no one who stands out.
It's a difficult one to answer, June, really. I don't know. I mean, so the way Romero's behaving the other day in that game against Newcastle, I mean, he lost his head, didn't he? But I don't know. I'm not convinced by him. I'm really not. But I mean, he's a winner. He's won the World Cup. He's won Europa League. He's won the Copa America. He's got a history of winning. He can be a fantastic player on his day, Romero, when he's on it defensively and set up in a good system. But yeah, difficult one. We'll have to wait and see on that one from Frank and who he decides with captain. But Jim, look, it's a lot of discussion to be had. With the whole kind of board and Levy, it's a long. You just do a whole show on it, so I don't want to get caught up too much. But just back to kind of Frank and your expectations with him, season one, kind of minimum expectations. Say if we add in like an attacking midfielder, good quality into the side that you believe is going to make an impact, and maybe another centre back. Where do you think we can finish under Frank in his first season, Jim?
Yeah, like you say, if the squad was how it is today, but didn't sign any more players, I would say we're set to finish 8th or 9th. Mm-hmm. If we bring in what we need to bring in, I think we'll be 5th or 6th. And we'll have a platform of growth there to then get back into the top 4 the season after, and the season after that, push for something exciting. But yeah, if it ends as it is today, it's just scraping over mid-table. We are 1 or 2 injuries away from falling off a cliff. And equally, we're just frustratingly, we're 2 or 3 signings away from having a brilliant team and a really good squad that's capable of bringing back a pretty good, consistent league form and challenging for something on the side.
Well, this is it, Jim. And this is what really frustrates me. With good recruitment and going out there to get some really good talent. What player left? We got moved on yesterday, which we were linked with. Was it Milliot? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah.
Looked so talented. I didn't know of the player, but you hear all the everybody talking about him. Then you go and have a look yourself, and you think, oh, he looks good, but he's gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, Jim. This is Spurs for you, eh? Because I'm happy with Frank, as I said. I'm happy with Frank. I'm happy with Paulinho. I'm happy with Kudos. Just give us 2, 3 more in the areas we need, and we could really have a good season next year, right? With Frank's organisation, tactics, change of formations. We need some coaching going into these players, right, to improve them. Like the last couple of years, I don't think a lot of coaching has gone into the side. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, we have to be realistic as well that like Newcastle and Villa are struggling as well, right? It's not a Tottenham in isolation problem. I see that though as an opportunity for Tottenham to take a few strides ahead of those clubs. Necessarily, then while if they can't do it, we can't either. So I'd always take that kind of mindset to things in life. But it is also just important to evaluate that. I think the market's taken another turn because there's more competition now with Saudi League poaching players for massive salaries. So the Milo player, as an example, it's kind of like, do you want to go to Spurs on 100 grand a week? And if it goes well, you might get a step after that on 200 grand a week. And the Saudi Pro League go, do you want 250 grand a week now, tax-free, and you'll never have to play again after this contract, whether it works out or not? And if it doesn't work out, you can have a pathway back. We'll sell you in a year's time after you've earned 20 million quid tax-free or whatever, 10 million quid tax-free. What do you want? So you've got that kind of competition now for a lot of players, which is difficult. You've got the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, PSG, all these state-owned sports washing clubs who just don't have a limit, really. And then, yeah, on top of all that, it's I
Jim,
think
we don't have to spend 50, 60 million pounds on a player, right? We can go out with some good scouting and get some good. There's some good players out there, right? Who will improve our team, man. I think.
Oh, there's no way you can tell me that in the whole of Europe, there's not a player out there for 20 million quid that doesn't make us better.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's, and that's what I keep going to. If I ran Spurs, I'd be saying, sorry, Ben Davies, you're transfer listed. You're not in the Champions League squad. If you want to play football, it's not here. Love you. You've got a job here as a coach, but you're up for sale. We're upgrading you. And I'd have moved him on. I'd have brought in another wing back already. And I would have aggressively probably just gone in for Eze's release clause and just brought it and just got it and kind of got those things done.
There you go.
But I'm not the chairman, but that's what I've done.
and that's there was one of these questions. If you were,
there you go.
If the club said to you, if you had full control, manager, director of football, transfer strategy, what bold changes would you make, which fans would agree with? I mean, you did start mentioning it there just now. You know what you would do with Eze. What would you do, Jim, if you had these decisions in your hands for the better of the club?
Well, I would stick with letting the people do their scouting, all these young, amazing players, doing all that kind of stuff. But I would up the ante and say to the manager, okay, every window, which 2 or 3 things do you need more than anything else to set yourself up for success? Like, what do you need to achieve? If I said to you, your new minimum expectation is a title challenge, what do you need to give me that within 2 years? What do I need to give you? And I would just push the boat out to make it work. I would work with the teams we've got. I wouldn't just callously just go out and just say, drop the money here, left, right, and center. But I'd say, if that's the player you want, I'm going to go out and put some serious, energy behind that. You've got to get it right, because we saw Spurs, we got it so wrong in other windows that we're actually hampering ourselves even today from making terrible recruitment and then not being able to sell these players. But now we've got that good structure in the background. I think we need to elevate the urgency. Like one of the issues we have at Spurs is we've not been aggressive enough at forcing players out that we need to move on as well, and just accepting that's their time. Like Richarlison's another one. I think he's a great player when he's fit, but we know he's not going to be fit enough. So you tell a player like that with resale value, if you want to stay at Spurs, you're not in the Champions League squad. Your spot's going somewhere else. Your choice. And they'll be swiftly onto their agent out the door. And we'll be swapping that spot for someone we know's a better fit for us. So yeah.
Jim, in a nutshell, Levy is really, and not just him, Enoch, whoever you want to, the board are holding Spurs back. That's it in a nutshell, really, to really push us on to be. Because I had a question at the end, and I know you've got to jump in 5 minutes. Let me ask it for you. Yeah, let's finish off with that question. Yeah, because you might need a little bit of time to answer it. Guys, please go over and subscribe to Jim. His link is in there, pinned at the top of the chat. If you haven't liked the video, please do. If you haven't subbed, please do. Much appreciated. Let's get that question up, Jim, because there's 2, but let's just do this one first. So let's fast forward 10 years. What do you hope Tottenham looks like, and what do you fear it could look like instead?
Well, look, I think we will continue to grow as a football club at a steady rate, like we've done commercially. I don't see anything changing. I think Spurs will continue to take that long-term growth approach they've always taken. So much of this is going to be defined by whether there's a government regulator that comes in, whether these rules of PSR and FFP are actually put into place. I feel it's more likely to go the other way, where the state ownerships are going to get bigger influences. I think they'll start to sponsor other clubs that they don't own more aggressively. So let's just say we become the Armaco Arena. Suddenly they've got another seat at the table out of those Premier League votes. Who's going to vote in their direction for decisions they want? Who are going to skew decisions to benefit the model they want football to take? I think Spurs by then will have. I think in the next 2 years, Spurs will have sold a minority stake, and things will change quite a lot then.
You're quite confident in that, Jim? You really think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think a minority stake will happen over the next 2 years. And I think I noticed some things in the Levy interview about they've been very clear he's not against state ownership, the links to Saudi-backed stadium sponsors. Um, I can see that he's trying to set ourselves up for a purchase which is in line, that is appealing to one of those entities, because they go, if I had Spurs, I could push the boat out financially and not breach FFP or PSR. Whereas look what happens when you buy Newcastle, you're completely hamstrung. So I think that's the approach he's going for.
So steady growth is this is what you're saying, but it won't really get there. It's at the top end, challenging for titles, Champions Leagues, because you need the
Well,
big
if we
investment.
sell, and I think we
Yeah.
will, I think in the next 2 years, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to sell a minority. But I think in the next 10 years, I don't think ENIC will be a majority owners. I don't think the Lewis Fund will be a majority owners.
No.
And that will be the time it changes. And that's when we'll have it. But yeah, look, when we're under this ownership, we're not going to take those risks. We're not. And that's going to frustrate a lot of people, including myself, much of the time. But I would say, if for all the frustrations with them, if we'd been owned by a typical owner who's owned Villa or Everton since they took over, I think Spurs would be in a lot worse of a position than they are now. But I think they've also pretty much peaked on how far they can take us. So that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think they've done badly to get us where we are. I think they've done great to get where we are, but we've hit a ceiling, and it's time perhaps for looking at investment and change if we want to compete with a Liverpool or a City or a Chelsea, and we do. So
Yeah, we need investment, right? That's what I'm hearing from you, Jim, is we need investment to push us to the next level. What's your thoughts on the just quickly, I know you've got to jump in a minute. The thoughts on the wages. What's it? The ratio is one of the lowest to revenue. I'm not great with the finances, but what is going on with that? Like, why
we do
is
it.
so low? We're like, supposed to be a top 6 side, challenging for Europe. What it's just so safe. And I think you mentioned it earlier in the stream, Jim, about Spurs being so risk averse, right? It's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a part of it. The wage ratio needs to go higher. I just want to lay that out and say I'm not defending it, but I want to give some context to it, because we do a lot of episodes on finance alongside some people who work in corporate finance. And it was interesting we did comparisons to all the super clubs like Real Madrid. So I'd say Real Madrid are the most ambitious club in world football. Their wage ratio is the same as ours. It's in the 40% region. And it's always been within 2 or 3% of ours, which is really surprising to a lot of people. So it goes to show, when clubs get their revenues to a certain level, you can start to drop the wage ratio, so you can increase, because it's not like you have a wage budget and a transfer budget. You have a total cost budget, effectively. Lower your wages are, the more aggressive you can be on transfers. The issue with us is we have been aggressive on transfers, but we haven't been as aggressive as the clubs around us on transfers many times, and we've been less aggressive on wages. So overall, we're kind of, we're not quite there. But I think we're in a stage of squad rebuilding where the priority is transfer fees and bringing in numbers of players, which is why this window I was hoping to see 4 or 5 senior additions. And then as a result, you start to see wages creep up afterwards as these young players who all signed start to get contract extensions, etc., etc., etc. Then we'll start to see that increase, which is one of my frustrations this season, Dan, is I expected, because of our low wage ratio, we were going to be super aggressive on the transfer front.
Yeah.
And we haven't yet. Now, if Spurs go and sign 2 more players that cost 150 million quid, I will say, take it back, fair play. We leverage that headroom to the maximum of our ability. But if it ends like this, I'm going to be a little bit frustrated, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's, as I said, it's kind of taken the shine off Frank coming in, and new beginning. I think we're 17th. We're not a 17th place side. No way. I know we had a lot of injuries and we won the Europa League, but we're nowhere near. We're not. We should be challenging around those top 8 positions. With a bit of luck with injuries, players improving throughout the season under Frank, and there will definitely be improvements. Definitely will. So if that all comes together, and then it's just, if we just need that in that forward line, Jim, it's just something for me. Attacking midfield, obviously Maddison's out. We don't know how long. If we could get 2 more, at least in this window, and maybe then go in January and get someone else. When
Yeah.
we're in the competitions, we've got it all to play for. Frank needs that extra boost into the squad. But look, Jim, I think again, just to finish the show, because I know you've got to jump. Let's see what this window looks like at the end, and then we can kind of then, like, you know, we'll know in our head what to expect next season, right? And if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. If not, then you know what to do.
I think you could say
you can do what you want.
We could have done more by now, but let's not give something a rating until the clock buzzer's gone, right? Like, because if Spurs put 2 amazing signings at the end of the window, I think suddenly all the lateness would be forgotten and the adulation would be brilliant, and the excitement. So let's see.
Yeah. Jim, I know you've got to jump, so thank you so much for coming on, guys. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your comments. Please smash the like button. Please go and subscribe to Jim if you haven't. And Jim, thank you so much. I've got another one coming on as well inside Spurs Mind at 9:15. I'm busy tonight, so I've got Brian coming on at 9:15.
Oh, brilliant!
So 2 tonight, so it's good stuff. So Jim, all the best.
Thanks
man.
for having me on, Dan.
Care,
thanks to all your listeners.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in about 20 minutes.
Catch you in a bit. See you later. Bye-bye.